Welcome to Expedient Means with Lin Wei on Timeout Radio. Lin currently resides in China and is the founder and head teacher of Guaylo Philo-Cultural Society. I'm just
You said
teasing.
Guaylo.
I know, I'm just teasing. Guaizen Philo-Cultural Society. He has extensive experience in Buddhist and Taoist meditation, Qigong, martial arts, and traditional Chinese medicine. To learn more about Lin, please visit his website at www.guizhenhui.net. Tonight, Lin will be discussing his internal dialogue. Just kidding. He will be discussing the internal dialogue. Welcome back, Lin.
Oh, good. Okay, so. Well, the entire.
We gotta get serious now.
Yeah. So anyway, you called it the Guaylo.
Yeah.
That's really fun. Thank you.
Sorry.
Internal dialogue. Wow. So what is this thing, Oolong? What is internal dialogue?
To quote one of my teacher's teachers, it is what he called mental diarrhea. the ebb and flow of constant thoughts and chatter.
Wow. I love that. That's amazing. It's great.
It's pretty accurate.
Pretty much. I mean, we do this every moment of every day, from the moment we get out of bed, to the moment we're in our car or on a bus or on our bicycle to go wherever we got to go, or even if we're just taking a walk, we're thinking on millions and millions of things. I mean, can anyone actually count from the moment they wake up, when they hear their alarm, their eyes open, or even before their eyes open, they just hear the alarm, or 5 minutes before the alarm goes off when they're just starting to wake up, all the thoughts that happen from that point to when they just go to brush their teeth, or just go to put their shoes on or their slippers on, or just put their foot down off the bed? How many thoughts we think?
I'm
And
going to
that's
say
just
quite a few.
only 5. No, I'm kidding.
Although, when I first wake up, I'd be hard-pressed to say I think of anything. I'm more like the time to make the donuts guy. Time
Make the
to make the
donuts. Yeah. We go through a novel within the first 5 minutes that we're out of bed. It's just a waterfall, or diarrhea of the mind. It's just amazing. Clouds fill the mind right away with all these notions and all these thoughts about everything, and what you are expecting yourself to be doing and be like, and what you have to face throughout the day, and what to expect throughout the day, and what you would wish would happen throughout the day, and what you're hoping wouldn't happen throughout the day. I mean, it goes on and on within 5 minutes or so, just at least from getting up to leaving out the door during your work week.
And how many of these thoughts are actually worries, right? Now, we'd assume that that's probably not very healthy for you.
No, they're all worries too, because even if it's, oh, I got to get coffee, oh, that's saying that, I'm going to be tired if I don't have the coffee. So it's this cycle, a cyclic response to drinking coffee. It's the addiction to the idea, not much of the coffee. It's a mental addiction of thinking.
It's like, oh, I got to get to work on time. If I don't get to work on time, I'm going to get fired. If I get fired, I'm not going to be able to. It's just, one thing after another after another.
Right.
It seems like I was just going to say, it seems like we're almost always living in the future at some unarrived or expected point rather than living in the now.
Exactly. And we're always not recognizing that the thoughts that we are having at the moment we're having them are already being pushed aside by thoughts that we're not even, thinking of consciously. This constant flow of these thoughts coming into the mind, which just keep this wheel of internal dialogue turning, and it overtakes us.
I think some of the Zen guys call it the monkey mind as well.
Sure. I get people who ask, oh, I meditate. How should I actually be meditating? Or what should I actually be doing when I'm meditating? Or, another favorite is, oh, I wanted to try meditation, but just sitting there trying to make myself not think is just a pain in the butt. It's just so annoying. I can't do that. I go, well, who's teaching you? And the reason why I ask who's teaching you is, what the hell are you doing? Who said you're supposed to stop making your thoughts happen? No, you just sit there and let the momentum wear out on its own. Eventually, when you stop feeding the fire, it dies out. The process is important.
was gonna say the act of trying to stop them, itself is just creating more
Right.
garbage, right?
Right. That's why when they go, oh, well, I sit in meditation and all I get is worry and all these notions and all these thinking. Yeah, because that's what's been feeding the mind. That's what you've been feeding in the mind. That's what you've been pushing. So it's turning. It's a great momentum. It could be speed of light, spinning at the speed of light, and you get millions and millions and millions of emotions and thoughts all raveled together with memories and viewpoints and whatnots. So that's why we focus on one specific idea. We fight fire with fire, poison with poison when we're cultivating and you're doing meditation. You're focusing on a specific place or a specific thought or a specific phrase. And it's not so that you should be reciting what you're supposed to focus on. It's just more that you should be holding this thought in the mind by contemplation, which is applying focus to what you think you're supposed to be saying.
I'm gonna have to make my girlfriend listen to this interview because she insists that she can't meditate. She she says she can't sit there and make her mind shut up. But
Oh,
she does do Tai Chi Chuan, and she says that seems to be the best way for her to meditate and calm her mind down, which is
right.
good too.
Right. The movement aspect allows you to focus on what the body is doing. So it kind of X's out any other false thinking for the time period. But it's a temporary satisfaction of the still mind. So it's not actually going deeper than it's still peripheral, it's still superficial. So it's not going deeper than that. Because if the form has been practiced and there is nothing else happening, and then you're going around doing everything else, I mean, nothing else meaning the practice, and you can't find peace, then that practice didn't go any further at all. So the
Yeah.
method,
Well, I was
the
just gonna
application
say.
of the mind is important.
No, I was just gonna say. When you're practicing the form, you don't always shut the mind down because you're still thinking, oh, am I in the right posture? Are my arms spread
Exactly.
too? Am I gonna hit the person beside me? There's a lot of times still that chatter.
Right, right, right. So that's just the learning portion of practicing the Tai Chi Chuan or practicing any other type of motion practice. But when it's on your own time, when you're not in a specific group setting and you're at home, you don't have to worry about those things and you can really focus on what you're doing. Yet, if the mannerism of that kind of application of the mind is not constant, then the practice itself didn't do anything more than just give you temporary satisfaction.
Well,
So,
but
in anything, okay.
I was just gonna say, I guess even if you don't shut the mind down, 100%, you're still kind of slowing it a bit, and I guess that's still a positive thing, right?
Yes, because then you can remember what that state feels like and eventually apply that kind of mannerism to anything else you do, and then that can add up to become a method for controlling the mind or for focusing and not letting yourself go on a tangent of daydreaming.
It,
So
it's
that's
it's
okay too.
it's polishing the mirror, even although it may not be super shiny yet. It's still removing some of the dust, right?
Right, right. You wipe the mirror clean every now and then, or every day. You wipe, 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 and then whatever. Or you can just totally eradicate the mirror, the stand, and the having to wipe and see right through to the point. Um, Generally, meditation doesn't need you to grab a hold of anything. You just sit and you apply your mind on one specific thing. And we don't have to just do this when we're sitting down or standing in practice or doing walking or lying practice. You do this in everything you're doing. And that's called mindfulness. When you're paying attention to what you're doing, you're not worrying if you're bored. You're not worrying if you're going to make a mistake. You're not worrying about who's watching you. You're just doing what it is that you have to do. If you're driving your car to go to work and you have traffic, so you have traffic. You don't have to go, damn it, I have traffic. Oh man, I can't believe this. And blah, 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 blah. Who said that's exactly what you have to do? If we all really look at that kind of thing, all of our reactions to everything are just responses that everybody else has been doing for such a long time. It's just the same entire movie or audio being played over and over again.
Yeah, it's almost like a collective insanity.
Yeah, right. We think that's just the way it should be. Everyone's having the same ideas, and it's driving themselves crazy. The internal dialogue goes on and on and on until it doesn't. And it doesn't by just doing one specific thing and paying attention to it and doing it. I tell my students here in my school that I teach, and I said, no one told you learning in a classroom is supposed to be fun. No one told you it's supposed to be boring. You're the ones who make it fun or boring. I could sit there and talk with a monotone voice all day long, and one of you may find it very amusing and silly and find enjoyment. Or I could sit there and be all joking and happy and try to make you guys happy. But there's always going to be someone who finds it boring, finds it retarded to listen to, waste of my time, and whatnot. And that's only because it's that person making it that way. And because it's easier to hold on to such a dense idea that other people will end up believing in it too. So they sit
Yeah.
there and they don't know how they should be in class except, okay, just be in class, you know?
Kind of a little bit of a segue again. I know we bring this up from time to time, and I know we've mentioned it in a couple other shows, but I I assume the media, such as the movies or songs and such, tend to just feed into this fire, so to speak.
Yeah. When people don't have the capacity to focus, then they run on tangents of everything. So whatever they see, they'll grasp, they'll jump to. It's a very easy way to get people to fall subject to their senses. And it's a very easy way to have somebody under your hand, basically to be controlled. Let someone fall under their senses, under the belief that what they're thinking and what they're experiencing is exactly good, and or whatever they want to have the illusion that it is, and you can control someone's life with just that. So internal dialogue kind of just lets us lose our center, our root. And what is that root? What is that center really? That is called the state of unmovingness. Okay, I'm not going to go too deep into these types of nomenclature, but it's the unmoved state. It means I'm focused in what I'm doing. You're going to throw a softball at my head while I'm writing on the corner or writing on my porch, and I'm still understanding that what I'm writing is what I'm writing, and I still don't lose my train of thought. Just a softball came and slapped me across the head. Okay, now we can go get angry and go crazy about this situation, or we can just recognize that a softball hit you in the head, and either you can turn around and say, "Did you do that on purpose?" And try to ease the situation out, or just continue writing.
You can use it as an expedient too, right? Just like
Sure.
Isaac Newton discovered gravity when the apple fell on his head. He could have just got pissed off at the apple and threw it up back at the tree or something, right? But
Sure, or he could have practiced Tai Chi Chuan and realized the gravity. Uh, I have some of my students in martial arts. They're like, "What happens if someone hits me?" I was like, "What happens when I hit you?" I go, "Oh my God, he hit me! Ow!" I said, "Well, that's false thinking. That's your false thinking mind turning around and losing focus. So all you got to do is just understand that the state of having pressure put upon you leaves you in another state. Doesn't mean you have to add your emotions to it. Doesn't mean you have to add more thinking to it. That's exactly what happens. You continue doing what you were doing."
but it almost seems unconscious when you let out a yeller or something when you get hit.
Sure. It's habit. It's
I don't
happened.
know. You think?
It's Yeah, it's happened. Someone hits you and you go, "Ah!" And they hit you again and you go, "Ah!" And it just keeps happening every time you get hit. And then you see other people getting hit in movies and friends getting hit and they're going, "Ah!" too. And you're like, "Okay, I guess I'm going to keep that thing up." When I used to be I wasn't a fighter when I was a kid, but I had some fights here and there. Um, Not with the usual crowds I hung out with the unusual crowds I hung out with. Doesn't mean like special, quote unquote, special groups, but just more aggressive groups that I passed through and I actually became friends with or whatnot. But when I would get punched or something, I wouldn't have any reaction. Just my training as a kid in meditation was like, okay. So I would get punched in the face, but I would still go at the person and throw them into a car or something. And people were like, "Oh my God, this kid's crazy. He didn't even feel that." I'm like, "No, I felt it. It hurt. But, if I sit there and recognize that I feel pain or whatnot, this person's going to beat me up more." So it's not that I'm being indifferent. I'm just mindful that this thing happened and I have to adjust the way I'm carrying myself.
So if you got shot or something, you wouldn't scream out?
If I needed help, sure. I would go, "I need help."
All right, we're gonna have to test this when you come back to Brooklyn.
Uh,
I'm gonna fly down and shoot you with an air rifle.
That's
when
funny.
you're not expecting it, I'll be like hiding around the corner
Thank
or
you. You're
something.
giving ideas to other people to try to. You know what? That's not nice at all. Please don't do that.
Super secret martial art training.
Really, really funny.
I'm just kidding. No, I don't know. It just I guess it just makes me think of the whole nature nature versus nurture things. Are there certain reactions that are programmed into the being, or is it all
Well,
learned?
this
You
is
know.
so good because goes right to this point. People call like sexual feelings human nature. People call being angry, jealous, um, all this as a human nature. It's just human nature. They cough it up to human nature. No, it's human conditioning. We are conditioned to believe these things are to be the way they are, and we act in that way because it's easy to accept. Oh, it's just that way. Everyone's that way, so I'm just going to be that way because there's nothing else. There's nothing showing me that there's something different. And then when there is something different, no one cares. They think it's weak.
Yeah, and in the case of say sexual desire, I mean, we're we're tend to be programmed here where you see a nude woman, you get aroused, right? But if you go into some of these tribal cultures, where they don't even wear clothes, it's just normal to them. They have no reaction to it.
Right. Okay, and someone can say, "Oh, they're just conditioned to see this all the time, so there's no reaction because they're used to it." Well, no, it's your education. What is telling you that you should have this type of reaction? Oh, well, when I was young, I seen a naked woman and I had an erection, or I seen a naked man and I felt aroused. Women or men would say, and it's like, because you don't understand. And then when you do understand, it's easier to get a hold. It's easier to hold on to that feeling of arousal because it's so obvious, it's so in your face, it's so screaming at you. So you just take it for what it is. And someone says, "Oh, you see a woman, you don't think she's hot, you don't think she's beautiful." It's like, I don't really have an idea about that. Like, it doesn't come to me. My wife says, "Oh, what do you think of that woman over there?" Like, I don't. I think she's pretty. It's like, what? She's wearing a short skirt and whatever she's wearing that's supposed to make her look pretty.
Yeah, I think that's a real powerful cultivation expedient because it's something that we in the West tend to, well, I guess probably in most of the world, just so unconsciously, your thoughts get pulled towards sexuality, and if you just grab them every time that they arise and investigate them, I mean, it's very
Find the
powerful.
origin, right?
Yeah.
And this false. The internal dialogues are false thinking, and that kind of just shrouds the real actual situation that's happening.
Mm.
You see anybody and you find them to be sexually attractive, you got to investigate what tells me that this is sexually an attractive thing. Where have I felt or heard? What instilled this kind of influence in this mind? Where is this seed? Where are the roots spreading? And try to understand the origin of this specific notion of this type of desire. And then we can gather that into other types of desire. Now, sexual desire and grasping that is a pretty big thing. It's pretty heavy. So people would want to start at a smaller thing, like, what they like to drink, what they like to eat, what they like to smoke, what they like to take as a recreational, gratification, and what they do with themselves, what they buy. They can do small things like this. Try to understand, try to realize or awaken to the fact that their attraction to specific things, okay, is not just of human nature at all, but that is human conditioning. What tells us we like this? Oh, I had a little taste of this, so I found it to be very nice, and I just decided I want to have this more. Okay, so what influences cause you to believe that tasting something you find that is delightful is something you want in your life all the time?
Because it's fun or it's good or yeah, you
Right, so
attach
we
to that.
create notions, and the fact is, when we're born into this world, that's just it. We're not born with clothes. We're not born with good tasting things. We're not born with this thrusting sexual desire. You haven't seen any child born with an erection, you know? Like, oh, your son almost poked me in the eye. And the doctor says when the kid was born. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And you can say, well, there's no stimulation for the kid to have such types of desires, and the kid will have desires when they get older, or stimulation in that area where they'll start touching themselves and all that. But that doesn't mean it's going to the sexual way. It just means that energy is focused into that area at this time. Energy moves through the body and moves through our, sexual area all the time, our private places all the time. But the more focus you put into those areas, the more energy will focus there. So the more you intend your mind, or the more you think or focus in specific parts of your body, your energy will go there more so than usual, and you'll have sensations there all the time. And
I've met.
then,
Oh, go
mm,
ahead. Sorry.
and then one will have the sensations there all the time and think that that's normal and it's okay and that's just the way it's supposed to be. And then they'll lose sight of how it actually became started, how it actually was started, and
I
they'll chalk it up to nature.
I've met some people that just seem to have like almost like their monkey mind is on overdrive. It's almost like they're all over. I guess you call it scatterbrained. They're kind of all over the place, and some people even talking their thoughts out loud. Um, how could someone that's that far gone get a rein on it? I guess I would assume it's just the same
It
way anyone
has
else would.
it has to be time. Yeah, it has to be time and the willingness to just investigate the mind, willingness to just question themselves and not believe exactly what they assume is the right way. You just have to accept that. Empty the cup, basically. Throw the cup away, step on it, break it, and throw all the shards in the garbage and make sure the garbage gets sent to the recycling bin and turn something else and you never find it again. Okay. It's really just that way. The person has to be willing to say, okay, why do I like the smell of peppermint all the time? What drove me to that? And they'll find maybe when they were younger around the holidays, Christmas holidays or whatever, that they had peppermint in their hot chocolate and they forgot all about it because they stopped drinking it because they weren't a kid anymore when they were a teenager and they didn't want it anymore because it didn't give them the feeling of being older and mature. But then when they're in their 30s, they like to have that comfort feeling and they don't, find why. And then they remember why. And then they just keep it going because it brings them a sense of comfort. But, well, that's still false thinking. That's still internal dialogue. That's still letting them remain in this cycle of a memory.
I'm gonna throw another curveball here, and
Uh-oh.
maybe I should even ask this in our previous show on the ego, but in some of the Chinese systems, they say that the ego is sort of resides in the liver. What is the relation to like the liver and the mind?
Okay, the liver, we would say, is like the general. Okay, the energy of the liver is like the general, like the tiger. It must get something done. And when the general says something, all the soldiers have to follow. And the general wants it done immediately. And when it sends out an order, usually the order is sent out with a very strong mannerism to make people feel it's very urgent, so it must get done. So in order to instill some type of sense of duty, sense of responsibility, okay, and a sense of importance. So the liver would be the symbol of, you could say this, an ego, where the ego is me, I say this, you must do this for me. If it's not done the way I want it done, then it's done wrong, and that's just the way it is because I have the right way. And you can feel that when there's a sense of urgency, or a person has this notion of urgency, or the cycle of emotion in anxiousness to get something done, that energy rises to the head. The person's speech becomes hoarse or forceful, loud, okay, or has an air of urgency or an air of intenseness to it. That's liver chi rising. So it feeds right into the views of a self because
So
I
like
feel this and I know it needs to be done.
like a fiery energy, right?
Yes, yes.
Mm.
You can say that we spoke about this a long time ago in our first interview this year in January. One of the other hosts, Kovita, she had mentioned something about green Tara, and what was it relation to the five elements or relation to emotional body or whatnot. And I brought up the fact of the liver being green energy. The energy of the liver is green, and if you're imagining green tar, the green energy or the green color soothes the liver, so that can soothe one's personality, can soothe one's anger, and thus let one find their calm or their center again.
Mm. All right. Well, I don't even know if I should tell this story, but I guess I will. I don't want to create any false thinking or anything, but
Is it
I
going to be a
met.
long story? I'm
No,
kidding.
it's actually relatively quick. But one time during investigating the mind, I just was trying to trace my thoughts back and, kind of push myself as deep into my mind as I could go. And what I felt I arrived at was almost like the other end of a black hole, where a black hole is kind of sucking everything in and then spitting it out the other end. Well, it felt like where I had arrived at in my mind was the other end of that black hole that was just constantly spitting out garbage.
Wow.
Just wondering what you thought about that. What you would say to that?
Well, you've got into a you've got into a state where you felt just this things are just emptying out. Am I wrong?
Well, I guess it was more like passively looking at where thoughts were coming from, I guess, and that's sort of, I guess, the best way I can describe it is just this almost point of nothingness that everything was just being spewed out of.
Okay, now it's going to appear in a way that you can identify it, so you can
Right, right.
understand it. It's not that all thoughts come from some black hole. Somebody may hear this and think, "Oh no, this is where it comes from." Oh God, that's where black holes are. That's what black holes are. Centers of false thinking. you
Yeah,
know?
I mean, of course, I'm looking at it still through my own lens as a human, right?
But states come according to the capacity for people to recognize them, attain them, and understand them. So that's why states are immeasurable, not immeasurable. They're just countless. That's why people shouldn't hold on to states as being an end all be all of something, or
Yeah.
a stating or a marker of anything. So it'll appear as that way, but letting you know that the nothing, what is considered to be nothingness, and having thoughts come from it shows that the nothingness is still not an emptiness, and that within the emptiness or the nothingness, all things reside. So even the void itself is full and not
Hmm.
full at the same time. So false thinking, where does it come from? Where does all these thoughts come from? It's not that they come from anywhere. It's just that they're there. And it's the fact that we place our focus on these things that make it more prevalent in our mind and in our conscious thinking.
So you mean to tell me I didn't get enlightened at that point? I thought I had become a Buddha as soon as that happened. I thought I'd
Buddha, Buddha, Buddha.
achieved greatness. I'm kidding,
It's
of
funny.
course. Yeah, I mean, and again, when you start doing this stuff, you do have all kinds of interesting experiences, and at the time, they seem to be the be all and end all, but then a couple weeks later, you kind of forget about them, and it's like, I guess I'm still the same person. I still get mad. I still yelled at the dog today, and
Exactly. And we can put all our false thinking into three words: greed, anger, and ignorance. And when we can compress it all into those three words, you don't have to accept it. You don't have to look into it and go, well, what's the theory behind this greed, anger, ignorance thing and our false thinking? And I don't believe in this. I don't believe in it that way. It doesn't matter if there's a belief in it or not. Just taking greed, anger, ignorance, and understanding how they all interreact or interplay with each other, okay? And then how our notions are centered upon those three things.
you
Then we
wouldn't
can
throw
really
you wouldn't throw lust in there as well, or is that just sort
part
of
of greed and part of ignorance.
okay?
And
Okay,
not getting it causes one to be angry.
okay.
It could be lust for a Snickers bar. It could be lust for, some tea. It could be lust for anything. It could be a lusting for something that you want. You want gratification for. It doesn't
Okay.
have to just be sexual desire. But that's usually, the sexual desire is usually the hardest one for people to grasp. That's why I was saying, let's not try to go into that right away. Go to small things. Go to clothing, go to food, go to some drinks, go to some habits, go to TV shows you like to watch, go to your emotional states on specific things and why you do those specific, or why you have those specific emotions, or why you take play into those specific emotions for.
Kind of another segue here, but just because we discussed it earlier this morning, but I know myself when I first became interested in cultivation, I always thought, say, Chan practice was sort of like a middle road because I always thought the goal was to cut out thinking, just to stop the monkey mind altogether. And I thought, Chan, well, if you're sitting there holding, a riddle or a Huatu or whatever, and you're churning that over in your mind, you're still thinking a thought. So therefore, you're not, you know what I mean. You're almost like you're one step
Right.
away from, always one step away from where you should be.
Good, good. So this gets this discussion to the next step, which is the investigation on how to stop internal thinking or how to stop the internal dialogue. Now, you're putting your focus on one specific thought, and you still have a thought, right? The mechanism in the beginning, it's mechanical. You are holding the thought by contemplating this specific riddle or phrase or whatnot. Okay, that's the mechanism. That's the expedient means to get to the next part. Okay, so while we're holding on to the state, all our focus gets put into it, and all of a sudden, we pass the state of having to mechanically hold on to a specific thing, and it becomes that the investigation now is taking full charge. There is no more phrase. There is just straight up going deeper into the state of stillness without having to hold it stillness, without having to look and say, okay, I'm at the next part now. I don't have to recite or not recite. I don't have to put my concentration on this word now. No, it happens on its own. So the very first part, okay, think of sitting in the lotus or sitting in any type of posture and applying the mind to a thought. Okay, first step, I have the huatao. I have the phrase I need to look at. Okay, people think, okay, I'm thinking about it. I'm focusing on it. I'm in the first step. What do I do? No, 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 no. You didn't even get to the first step yet. This is just preparation. This is prerequisite. This is just applying the mind and getting a hold on the mind. Once that happens, now you hit the first step. Now you just put your hand on the doorknob. You didn't even step in yet. Let that state go further on its own without false thinking. And the only way to get there without false thinking is to keep your mind focused in the beginning, the prerequisite. You
Yes,
understand the process is so very important in the
it's
beginning.
almost like seeing a lake or something. You can't just jump across the lake right away. You've got to, get in your boat, row across the lake, and then, let your boat, leave your boat at the
Boat?
shore, and then
No, 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 no. You just bring your yang qi down to the yin aspect of the body and you bounce right off. I'm kidding.
for a second, it was like, what the hell? But
Did I just give you a curveball?
yeah, you definitely threw me for a loop.
Yay, my first curveball of the whole year. Sorry
But
for the
yeah, you
coughing.
know what I
Bad air
mean.
quality.
Like,
Yeah, I understand what you mean.
yeah. So it's just a tool, and it's again,
Yes.
it's an expedient.
Yes, it is the expedient just to get you to the doorway. Letting yourself settle into the investigation, that's turning the knob, opening the door, and putting one foot in. Now that you put in one foot in, the foot, the door, the doorknob, and the method are gone. Now you're actually entering Chan. Now
Uh,
you're actually meditating.
okay, so let's just contrast that. So there's Chan, but what about other practices like, say, sitting and forgetting or Vipassana? Could you maybe discuss a couple of those and just maybe
They will get you to the same place. They will get you to the same place, just another method of how to apply the mind. You can have millions of methods. Like sit there and go, okay, be in a state of that there is nothing before, and I don't know of anything in the future. And at this moment, there is not even an I, realizing that there is no before and no after. Forget all that. And that method itself of applying the mind is still applying concentration. And it will still get you to the states further on.
So why doesn't the Buddha just invent a pill that we'll all take and it'll get us across the lake?
Because he wasn't given $50 million to star in a movie called The Matrix. If he was, he would just go, look, don't waste my time. Here you go. I'll see you on the flip side.
Interestingly enough, Keanu Reeves also starred in the Little Buddha, the movie about
Yeah.
Sakyamuni. So, just
Cute.
a random coincidence.
Yes, funny, isn't it? People didn't like his performance in that, but I thought it was pretty fun. Not the performance, just the whole entire thing.
Yeah,
And I personally like Keanu
I
Reeves.
I'm not a big fan of Keanu's, but I actually really did enjoy the Little Buddha.
Mm, mm.
Mm.
I like him. Just not out of the movies. I mean, I think his acting is fine for me. I mean, I have my own ways, but person wise, it's a nice guy. Haven't met him, but read up on it. Nice. Anywho,
Excellent.
yeah, so great. Um, there goes some more false thinking right there.
Yeah.
So internal dialogue, cutting it out is really simple, but the hard work must get done, which is just pay attention, be mindful. And how to be mindful is just paying attention. If you don't know how to pay attention, the best step in learning how to pay attention just is apply your focus on what you're doing. And
I'm
if that
just
just is not available for you, then there are supplements, vitamin supplements that can help you calm the body, and that can be the expedience to getting you to the next step for the expedient of the next step to go further.
it's almost like a guy that's running or jogging and he's tired and he's like, "Man, I'm so tired. I'm so tired running all the time." And you're like, "Well, stop running." Are you kidding? I've been running my whole life. You want me to stop running? I can't do that.
Right. Right. I get that here too. People like, drinking and smoking and, doing what they do, oh, I can't stop that. I'm always doing that. I was like, well, then, don't complain. Really, if it's not willingness to change, then don't complain about it.
Yeah.
Oh, I always get heartburn. Well, what are you eating? Eat a lot of spicy foods and fried foods. Okay, well, stop eating spicy foods and fried foods for at least a week. Oh, are you kidding me? I can't eat anything. There's nothing else to eat if I can't eat spice. I'm like, are you kidding me? I eat everything else. There's no spice in it. Oh, yeah, but that's different because you weren't raised that way. I mean, I have to have it or I can't live. And they consume it as though it's the most important thing in the world. So, if you're having a problem, stop doing the thing that gives you the problem. And you're only going to recognize it's going to cause the problem when someone points it out to you. But you got to be willing to let it go for a little while.
that,
Moderation.
that's just it. People have to be willing to make the change. And I think, I mean, that's the same with anything in life, dieting or any problem anybody has. People are always complaining about the problem, but nobody ever wants to do the work or nobody ever wants to make the
Right.
change.
Right. So I just say when people are always complaining, are you doing anything to change it? What can I do? Well, then stop complaining. When you can't find there's nothing, if you can't find anything for you to do about it, then just stop complaining about it because complaining isn't changing. It's just making you worse. Then we realize that the problem really isn't outside of us, it's inside of us, regardless of who's doing what in our world.
Hmm. Well, I mean,
Well,
okay, so
that's we can go on about the same idea and the same notion, but I think we already we already covered a great much on this aspect
yeah,
here.
yeah. I
I
mean,
think
it's people overcomplicate it, and it's really not that complicated. It's again just our
mhm,
views. We just have to change our
mhm,
views about it.
mhm.
So, okay, let's see what kind of expedients, aside from what we've already discussed. I mean, there's 101 different methods of meditation. What would you recommend for the beginner if they didn't know any way to stop the monkey mind from
Fine.
churning?
Well, outside of the looking into a phrase, investigating a phrase or whatnot, you know, all you need to do daily and make this the habit, make this good habit happen. Pay attention to what you do. I'm brushing my teeth now. Okay, brush your teeth. Don't go thinking about, oh, I'm going to have some coffee after, or I'm going to go and, get in traffic. No, brush your teeth and that's it. Wash your mouth out and that's all you're doing. Wash your face and that's all you're doing. Putting on your clothes, making your breakfast, saying hello to your wife or whomever it is, and that's all of what you're doing. You don't have to have any other type of thing going on in you, in your mind, but what you are doing. That's it. And if you want to go into a meditation practice, very simple. Just try to sit into a meditation posture, whether it's lotus, half lotus, or just cross leg, which I would rather not you do cross leg. I'd rather do half or full at best. And if that's physically impossible, there's always sitting upright in a chair, 2 inches off the seat of the chair. Well, 2 inches to the edge of the seat of the chair, unless you could sit off the seat of the chair too. That's funny. Anyway, uh, and just get into that and sit and focus on your inhaling and exhaling. Such a basic thing, which will take you billions of miles ahead. If you can just sit there 2 minutes, 1 minute a day until you get used to it, you add an extra minute, you sit 5, 10 minutes, and all you do is just inhale through your nose, down to your abdomen, that it expands. When you exhale, it contracts, and you exhale out your nose. You know, if you want to worry about putting the tongue to the roof of your mouth, sure, you can do that. If that seems to be too much trouble, don't worry. The point is you're applying your mind and you're developing some concentration. Your body's energetic systems do their job anyway, so you don't have to worry too much of specifics right away. And then your mind gets stronger. You'll find some peace in the most annoying situations. And that's the best I can give you for a beginner, because there's nothing to it at that point. You just do that. Eventually, you get stronger, and then you can go further on other practices. I had once had a person ask me, give me the most profound method I can in Buddhist cultivation. And I said to the person, are you kidding me? People can't even get because it was going on a TV show. I said, people can't even get the basic ideas. How am I going to give the most profound ideas? So then I said, I will give the most profound idea, which is the most basic idea. Just be a good guy. Be a good woman. Be a good child. Be a good person. Simple. If that can't be done, then how is anyone going to understand anything else that's supposedly called so profound? If that can't be done, nothing else is going to get done. You can't jump over. There's no McDonald's of cultivation. Maybe of martial arts, but not of cultivation. You know, you can't get anywhere in the fast way without actually taking responsibility for it, putting in the hard work, putting in the effort, and applying the mind and actually gaining substance. You must do that. Without it, you're not getting anywhere. That's the best I can give for beginners. For anyone else who's been doing it who's seasonal cultivator, who likes their meditation for hours and hours a day, every state that we get to, drop it. Doesn't make anything. There's no marker. It doesn't make you a sage. Any powers, any insights doesn't make anything special. You may have something good that can benefit others. Be that benefit for others, and then share that principle with others. But do not hold in a specific position for yourself. That's already been done. We don't have to do that anymore. Then you can go even further. And that goes for any practice one is doing.
All right. Well, thanks for that, Lynn. It's weird. It seemed like that commentary was really long, almost like it was drug on for 2 weeks or something. I don't know. Maybe it was just a subject matter.
That's really funny.
For those who are listening, I had a nice storm which knocked out my power for a day, and we couldn't really finish the interview.
Yes, so we were actually just sitting at the computer for a whole week,
2
and a half,
weeks
2 weeks to finish this up.
Well, anyhow, I think we get to the heart of the matter anyhow with your
pretty much. Yeah, I don't have to go on.
Yeah,
I was sitting there waiting for you to reply, and I'm sitting there going, "Am I talking too much?"
I was just testing your patience.
I mean, I didn't move from my seat for 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's good practice.
Yes.
All right, well, thanks, Lynn, for the commentary, and thank you, everybody. And thank you, everybody, for listening to Expedient Means of Lynn Way on Time Arc Radio. Please be sure to join us next week as we discuss karma. Holy crap.
Wonderful.
And I'm not going to quote the chapter of the Tao Te Ching. I said I wasn't going to do that anymore. But
yeah, because we did a whole commentary on it.
Yes, we did a whole commentary, so don't have to keep repeating it. But I did find
you did find something. Okay, because I was going to put in something really interesting in here, too.
I'll go ahead.
Really? Okay, then I'll do this one, and then you put the real one on. This is just for shits and giggles.
Okay.
Now you see that evil will always triumph, because good is dumb.
Yes. Don't take that seriously, everyone.
Yeah, that kind of tops mine. Well, I'll read mine. When you forget the good and the non-good, the worldly life and the religious life, and all other dharmas, and permit no thoughts relating to them to arise, you abandon body and mind, then there is complete freedom. When the mind is like wood or stone, there is nothing to be discriminated. And that was from Zen Master Bai Zhang Huai Hai. I'm not sure if you're familiar.
I just don't know the way it's spelled, so.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really good.
Yeah, I thought it
really
kind of went along with the topic. So, anyhow, We'll see you next week.
Okay.
All right, take care.
Bye.